Welcome to the Book People. I'm Aishwarya Javalgekar, a writer, book editor, podcast producer, and the head of originals at Bound. In this path-breaking podcast, I demystify the publishing and creative industries and uncover the biggest opportunities and challenges for writers in India today. So one question writers always have is if they have a completed manuscript and they want to get it published, which route should they choose? Do they need to first get an agent who will then pitch them to publishers and then they get published? Or can they go directly to the publishers and get their book published? Now, both of these routes are possible, right? But the question then becomes what is the best practice? Or what is the best and easiest and fastest way to get published or to guarantee publishing? So, in this episode, I'm going to deep dive into literary agents. Who are they? What do they do? How important are they in the publishing journey? And can you still get published without them? So, let's find out. So, what do literary agents do? Just like musicians or actors have agents, literary agents represent authors. So they identify and pick up authors or books that they think have a lot of potential. This could be based on the quality of writing itself. It could be the subject matter or the topic that the book is tackling, or it could be the profile of the author or the expertise of the author. So based on these different parameters, they choose to represent an author or a book throughout the publishing process. Now, this can be broken down into two things, right? The first thing they do is that they get your book published. So they pitch your book to commissioning editors and to publishers in order for it to get picked up. And how do they do this? So literary agents, because of their work, have a lot of connections in the industry. And beyond just knowing that a book is good or bad, or what potential it has to do well in the industry and to get a lot of book sales, they also have these connections with editors and with people in the industry. So they are able to kind of identify and say, okay, this book will do really well with this kind of a publishing house because it fits with their editorial mandate, or this book fits really well with what this particular editor is looking for, or this particular editor's taste, or writing style that they usually pick up. So because they know these sort of nuances, instead of just pitching your book to everyone, they're able to sort of match your book to the right publishing house, the right commissioning editor, and sort of ensure that it gets picked up. Another thing that literary agents do is that they might decide to represent a book and then might still suggest some edits for the book, or might suggest some feedback on the book proposal to kind of make it better and hone it. Because even for them, right, the stronger the book proposal is, the easier it is for them to pitch the book to editors and to publishers. The second important thing that agents do is negotiating contracts for the author, right? So once they have pitched a book and say an editor says, you know what, I love this book, we want to take this book and we want to publish this book as a part of our publishing house, what the literary agent then does is negotiates with the publisher on the author contract. So this includes details like what royalties is the author getting, what advance are they getting, the other rights. For example, can this book be translated into other languages? Does the publisher have the right to do that? Can the publisher go sell this book in like Switzerland, right? Or can the publisher adapt this to audio or take this to the screen? So these kinds of sort of small details of rights that are mentioned in the contract are negotiated by the literary agent on behalf of the author to make sure that the author gets the best deal possible, right? So to summarize, the role of an agent includes identifying and soliciting good talent or good writing, editorial skills, being able to edit, negotiation skills, and being able to pitch, and also obviously understanding of contracts, so legal understanding and understanding of rights. So these are sort of the different inputs that a literary agent provides. Or if you want to become a literary agent, these are the skills that you have to develop in order to be a good literary agent. So now the next question arises, do you actually need a literary agent to get published, or can you get published without one? right? So the first thing to remember is that literary agents give you access to these bigger mainstream multinational publishing houses. So what happens usually is that in these houses, they're getting hundreds and thousands of submissions on a weekly basis, and they're not able to keep up with the number of submissions that are coming in from authors, right? So usually all these submissions come in this thing, and it's called a slush pile. And what is a huge challenge for these editors to do is to kind of wade through that pile and be able to filter it and identify the really good pieces of writing amongst the writing that they wouldn't really publish or doesn't fit with their mandate. So this is where they find literary agents really helpful, because agents are doing that filtering for them, right? So agents kind of pitch the manuscripts where they're already guaranteeing a level of quality, they're guaranteeing a level of writing skill, and they also know what are market trends and what these editors are looking for. So that in itself is a huge bonus. So a lot of multinational houses end up going only with the books usually that are represented by agents and pitched by agents. Or sometimes they will only look at books pitched by agents, so they might not even look at their submissions that they're receiving directly, but will only look at agent solicited manuscripts. So that can happen in multinational. Now with independent publishing houses or smaller houses, that is usually not the case. Their mandate is more about sort of having that variety and access, so they will usually read most of the submissions, and also they get a lower volume of submissions, so they are able to kind of read all the submissions and pick up people based on direct submissions rather than through a literary agent. So that again is a decision that as a writer you have to make, which is where are you trying to get published and what is the best way and the best avenue to reach that particular type of publisher, whether it's through an agent or directly. Another thing to remember about a literary agent is that they make money when you make money, right? So literary agents work on a commission model. So right now in India, usually they charge about a 10 to 20% commission on the money that the author earns, right? So the only way that an agent can earn money is when an author earns money, which is why they are very motivated to make sure that you get the best deal, the most highest advance you can get, you're getting the most royalties you can get. And then also once the book is published, there are also many agents are invested in making sure that the book is getting promoted well, to ensure that your sales numbers are high, because the higher your sales, the higher the author earns, and the more the author earns, the more the agent earns. Or they'll also pitch the book further, right, for translations, for adaptation, because again, anytime that they make a deal that gets the author money, the agent makes money. So they will be motivated to sort of get your books translated in other languages, or get it to different territories or different countries, or get it adapted to audio or screen. So again, that is something where an agent is really motivated in making sure that your book is reaching sort of the maximum potential that it can reach, which is obviously great to have someone in your corner who is doing that. So if we look at the other side, right? So the fact that literary agents are so in tune with publishers also means that a lot of times their mandate of what they are looking for or what they will pick up is very aligned with what the publishers are looking for. Obviously, because it's ultimately a business and they're ultimately trying to make money, they will align with what already the publishers are looking for, and what they know and can see from industry trends are books that are doing well, or genres or subjects that are doing well. So sometimes what happens is, because of this, they will also end up picking up books where they can guarantee a level of success, right? They're essentially betting on books and betting on authors, and they'll hedge their bets and see, this is a book where I know that there is potential, there is sort of a very high percentage that this book will get picked up, this book will sell well, and that is ultimately how I will make money. And that can sort of again discourage them from picking up, say, something very experimental or very niche, unless they can look at it and identify exactly which publisher would want to pick it up, right? So that can be a challenge in terms of access for people who are not writing sort of really mainstream or really commercial writing in that sense. The other challenge is that there are very few literary agencies in India right now as compared to the number of authors, right? So India, the number of authors is just booming, And so the new challenge is that often literary agencies themselves are so bombarded with submissions that they don't have the time to go through all the submissions and kind of pick and choose which authors they want to represent and take those conversations forward. Also, these agencies usually will have their own limit in terms of how many authors can they represent at a time, how many people can they have on their list at a time based on their own resources and capability. So that again becomes a limitation in terms of how many authors can they pick up. And that's why again getting a literary agent itself has become such a premium thing, right? It's in itself a mark of credibility, because in order to be able to catch an agent's attention and actually get picked up in itself is now a big deal, right? And that is because of this slight imbalance that exists right now in the industry. So what are the alternatives? If you don't reach out to literary agents, what can you do? So the first thing is you can try to reach out to editors yourselves, right? With internet access and social media being such a great thing, a lot of people, a lot of writers reach out directly to editors, DM them, pitch books to them. And I myself know a few writers who have done that and who have succeeded, like Anirudh Mahale, who wrote his LGBTQ dating guidebook. He did exactly that, right? He just sent a DM to an editor and got a book picked. So that is obviously something that is possible. It's very one-off and doesn't happen that frequently. It's a very, very, very rare occurrence. So we should remember that. And also, obviously, at the end of the day, it doesn't match the experience and the kind of connections that an agent would have. The second thing you can do is obviously reach out to more of these independent or smaller publishers where you think that you have more access. And smaller isn't necessarily a bad thing. Independent publishers publish some of the most amazing high quality books out there because they're really able to curate. And most of these independent publishers have specific niches that they excel in. So honestly, depending on the kind of book it is, you might be better off sometimes going to an indie directly, in the sense of how they will treat a book versus how a mainstream publisher will treat a book, which is a call that you need to take. Now the third thing you can do is go the self-publishing route, right? So now here is a route where the onus of making sure that the book is edited, printed, marketed kind of falls on you as the author. And there are a lot of platforms, self-publishing platforms, that are helping authors kind of through this journey. And if you're curious about this, in the next episode, I'm actually speaking to the CEO of Notion Press about how Notion Press does exactly this thing. So you can tune in next week to understand more about exactly how self-publishing works. To conclude, do you need a literary agent? Not really, there are alternatives. But does it help to have a literary agent? Yes, absolutely. Especially if you are a new or debut author who is new to the industry and trying to break into the industry. But I do want to emphasize one thing, that having a literary agent does not guarantee publishing, right? No literary agent will tell you that the moment you sign up with me, you will get published. It is not 100% guarantee. And that is something that you always, always, always need to remember. Sure, getting an agent will speed up your process. Your chances of getting published are higher, and it overall simplifies the process, because a lot of this hassle or anxiety that comes in with trying to pitch, how to pitch, what is the best book proposal, all of that goes away because the agent is kind of doing that work for you. But once again, it does not guarantee publication. And finding that right agent who understands your work, right, who just gets it, who gets your work, who gets you, and is able to represent you in the best way possible, is also a tricky thing. So if you're able to do that, that's great. I hope you found this breakdown helpful. If you are still trying to contact a literary agent and are trying to figure out, who exactly to contact, or if you want to work as a literary agent, right, I've put a list of the best literary agencies in India, according to me, in the description below. So you can definitely refer to that. And if you're looking for any other kind of publishing guidance or publishing services, then Bound offers a variety of different publishing services. So we do book editing, manuscript evaluation, and you can also book publishing guidance directly with me. So the link for that is in the description. And you can also email me at aishwarya@boundindia.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these kinds of episodes where I take one thing and break it down completely. So if you enjoyed this or found this helpful, please let me know. I would really appreciate the feedback. And if there is something specific that you think I should cover, also let me know. I'll see you next Thursday. Thanks for tuning in.